So welcome to our topic about friction. So first we have to define what is friction. So a friction is the resistance exerted by a body as another body in contact moves or intends to move. No? So ibig sabihin, ang friction ay always opposite dun sa direction ng movement. So it tends to resist. No? Always, yun yung action niya, to resist. So in illustration, so we have this weight of the body na rectangular. Then we have the force na hinihila siya or na going dun sa right. So since ang paghila ay going dun sa right, the friction force will be against that movement. So meaning papunta sa left yung ating friction. But how do we compute for our friction? So meron tayong tinatawag na normal force. So yung normal force ay always perpendicular do sa plane. So ang ginagawa naman ng normal force usually ay ina-oppose lang niya yung mga weight ng body, no? So kung para magkaroon ng equilibrium. So we compute for our frictional force by the formula mu times n. So yung mu ay yun yung coefficient ng friction natin. So it varies depende sa smoothness or roughness ng ating surface. Then we also have of course the resultant kapag kinuha natin since ang frictional force natin and normal force ay parang nagiging component ng ating resultant. So meron tayong resultant force na R. Then we have the angle of friction. Of course, we can solve by that formula kung paano kumuha ng angle of friction. Is the tangent ng ating frictional force over yung ating normal. So by that illustrations. So a friction force that keeps the body from moving is tinatawag natin na static friction. So isipin pag hindi gumagalaw, hindi siya nagmo-move, pero static friction na to maintain it from hindi mag-move. So meron tayong formula na Fs over n. Then habang nagmo-move naman yung body, ibig sabihin tinatawag tayong kinetic friction. So may friction siya habang nag-move. So yung naka-maximize yung friction natin. Yun na yung maximum na kaya niyang gawin. And it's not enough para ma-stop niya yung isang body. Kaya nag-move pa din. So tinatawag natin kinetic friction. So for example, we have 200-pound block which is in contact with a plane inclined at 30 degrees from the horizontal. So a force P parallel to the to and acting up the plane is applied to the body. If the coefficient of static friction is 0.2, so first we have to find the value of P to just cause motion to impede up the plane. And we have the B to find P to just prevent motion down the plane. And then we have if P is 80 pounds, determine the magnitude and direction of the friction force. So first we have to illustrate and draw the free body diagram. It's always the first step para mas maintindihan natin, mas makita natin ng mas malinaw. So we have force P na patulak pataas, na pinupush niya pataas yung ating body. Then of course, meron siyang weight na 200 pounds, which is always downward. And then we have the normal force, na sabi ko nga ay always perpendicular dun sa plane. So, perpendicular lang siya palagi dun. So, we have the free body diagram, mas malinaw. So, kukunin natin as x-axis yung along the neutral or the normal force, and then yung x-axis natin will be along dun sa force P. No? So, to solve that, so since condition for equilibrium, so we have summation forces ng ating vertical ay 0 or the y forces ay 0. So we have weight ng body then sine 60 degrees minus yung normal force na along the y-axis is equal to 0. So meaning ang ating normal force ay 173.21 pound. And then to get the frictional force, since meron na tayong normal force, makukuha natin siya mu n. So the coefficient of static friction ay 0.2 times the 173.21 pound, which is 34.64 pound. And to get summation forces ng ating X or the horizontal forces, so we have weight cosine 60 degrees plus yung frictional force minus yung force P. Dapat mag-zero since hindi dapat nagmo-move. No? So we have 200 cosine 60 degrees plus 34.64 minus P is equal to 0. So yan yung force natin to cause motion to impend. Meaning, paano impending motion? Meaning kapag lumagpas na dyan ng konti, magkakaroon na ng movement. Okay. So hanggang dyan lang siya. No? Kung lalagpas pa siya dyan, mag-move na yun. Yung body natin. So we have this, para naman sa problem 2, sa letter B, we have illustration ulit. So same illustration, kaya lang dito, so automatic na alam natin na yung frictional force ay i-help niya yung force P para hindi mag-move down. No? So meron na tayong ganong condition. And to get that summation ng forces, X lang tayo, W cosine 60 degrees minus P minus F is equal to 0. So we get P is equal to 65.36 pound. So, para naman sa ating C, so ibig sabihin yung P natin ay given na. We have 80 pound. So illustration ulit. So based on sa ating free body diagram, kulay dilaw yung frictional force. So we assume na tinutulungan niya yung 80 pound kasi hindi natin alam kung ipupush pa niya pataas or nagmo-move down yung body. So assumption muna tayo. So based on our assumption, so we can get W cosine 60 degrees minus P minus F must be 0. So we get this 200 cosine 60 degrees minus 80 minus the frictional force is equal to 0. So we get by that na yung F natin ay 200 pound up the plane. So ibig sabihin, mas malakas yung movement nung due to weight compared dun sa may 80 pound. So kaya kailangan pa niya ng help ng friction. Okay, that's it. Thank you.